Here. A few guidelines by order of Fire Marshal. All aisles must be kept clear. All signs need to be kept below chin level so as not to block the view behind you. Restrooms are located next to the elevators. We have set aside an hour this evening, so please limit your comments to 2 minutes. Actually want to start, there was a group gathered outside regarding the, there we go, the SROs in schools. I think they wanted to say a few things. So, do you want to come up? Yeah. Yeah. And just, you guys will each have two minutes for two of you. Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Callie Quinward. I've testified before. I'm a junior at Grant High School, and I'm a member of Portland Student Action Network, which is the group here today. I'll be introducing our Police Out of Schools campaign and covering some of the issues we have with school resource officers. Although I know you want us to limit us to 2 minutes. Our testimony isn't too long, but we may go over time limits. We would appreciate if you refrain from interrupting. We have reached out to all of the board members before and multiple district officials, but gotten very few responses, and so far have only been able to meet with one person. So this is our only really chance to get this message across, so we'd appreciate it if you listened. So police do not belong in schools. Many of us have seen the video of a young female student being taken from her desk and slammed on the ground by a cop. We've read about an 8-year-old autistic child who was handcuffed to a chair for over an hour and sent to jail for throwing a fit in school. We've heard news of kids being dragged out of schools in handcuffs for simple class disruptions. We've watched an SRO taser and choke a 14-year-old special needs student for no clear reason. This is the culture cops create. While extreme incidents like this may be rare in PPS, hostility and intimidation remain prevalent. Just seeing a fully uniformed armed officer in the halls evokes a sense of fear. To many, the police are an institution of oppression and violence. PPS states that all students have a right to feel safe and included at school so that they can thrive academically and socially. But much of the student body, especially students of color, low-income students, neurodivergent students, and LGBTQ+ students, have their sense of safety stolen from them by the presence of police in our schools. How are marginalized students supposed to thrive academically while living under the constant fear of being arrested, detained, interrogated, or even shot by in-school police? During protests, many members of our group and other PPS student activists have been tackled, hit, arrested, shoved, pepper sprayed, threatened, tear gas, and shot with projectiles by police, including some of PPS's SROs and other youth service officers. It is near impossible to walk into school the next morning after a protest and feel safe knowing your SRO and their coworkers assaulted you. We understand that you believe SROs fulfill an essential role of security and relationship building, but the majority of PPS high school students couldn't even tell you the name of their SRO, let alone recall any sort of positive interaction they've had with them. However, chances are they could tell you about students they know who have been arrested in school, or let you know how uncomfortable having a gun on the school campus makes them. Rather than protect students, SROs criminalize them, serving as a bridge between schools and the criminal justice system. Schools must become sanctuaries, free from traumatizing interactions with law enforcement. While the Portland Police Bureau claims that in-school arrests are rare, we see them occur far too frequently. Any number of arrests is too many. Being taken out of class and put in handcuffs in front of your peers for a minor offense is not acceptable. This is a blatant manifestation of the school-to-prison pipeline. It is an embarrassing, traumatizing, and unnecessary practice. We know quite a few students who have been arrested and never returned to school. Arrests of any students on school campus, unless they pose a severe threat to an immediate threat to safety, must end. In the rare event of a school shooter or some other act of extreme violence, having an officer present might make sense. But this is not a justification to have an armed cop stationed at
Could you
schools.
wrap it up, particularly if
Sorry,
there's
I mean,
another-
we're going to continue. Again, we have reached out to you multiple times. We were not let into this board meeting to begin with because of shock. So we feel that it's our right to testify in front of this board right now.
Yeah, there are other people.
We understand, but I mean, we also don't have any other opportunity
You
to
have
present.
2 more minutes.
Okay.
I mean, I would like you to wrap up, and then the next speaker would have 2 minutes,
Okay,
please.
great. But this is not a justification to have an armed cop stationed in schools. SROs are only present a portion of the time, and studies show that a single officer is unlikely to be able to prevent or stop an attack. In PPS, the SRO program appears to have no public accountability or oversight. No data or information is readily available. Currently, PPS has a retired cop serving as security director, making it unlikely that SROs will be held accountable. Having cops like the Cleveland SRO, who assaulted a black woman, serve in our schools is terrifying and should be an embarrassment for this district. SROs serve no vital purpose in the district that could not be filled by unarmed security and counselor support. Behavioral issues should be met with a positive intervention and restorative practices, rather than arrests and police involvement. Placing an armed officer in every high school sends a message to students that they are a threat that needs to be suppressed. We do not feel protected by SROs. Instead, they instill fear in us, disrupting the educational environment. If you care about creating schools where all students are able to feel safe, you must end the regular presence of armed police in PPS schools. At a recent candidate forum, every board candidate present said that they would support removing armed police. We hope that you get behind this initiative too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Yosha Ness, and I'm a student in OLC. I'll be going over the Portland Student Action Network's demands and explaining what we see as an alternative to SROs. We hope we have shown you today that SROs are an unnecessary and harmful part of PPS. However, we want more than just the removal of cops from our schools. It's time PPS rethinks their approach to discipline and behavioral issues altogether. We understand that the current budget cuts are severe and may only get worse, but this needs to be made a priority in more than just writing. Additionally, many of our recommendations utilize already available resources without requiring additional funding. Our 8 demands are as follows. 1, immediately stop arresting students in school unless they pose an imminent danger to themselves or others. As previously stated, in-school arrests inflict lasting trauma on students, support the school-to-prison pipeline, and create an environment of fear. It is cruel and unnecessary. Students should never be handcuffed or arrested in school unless they pose an imminent threat that cannot be addressed without the use of restraint. 2, immediately disarm SROs. Schools should be gun-free zones. If police are truly engaging with school communities and problem solving, there is no need for them to carry a gun. The presence of this sort of weapon is what is supposed to be in what is supposed to be an educational environment is alarming. We all know that there are too many trigger-happy cops. What's to prevent an SRO from pulling out their gun or using it in the event of a fight or conflict between students? No student or staff member should have to consider the possibility of being shot while in school. We are asking that SROs be disarmed at the beginning of the 2017-18 school year. Train security and counselors to handle situations which require intervention and/or discipline. Most, if not all, schools have unarmed security staff. Security should be more than capable of handling situations like fights or threats without police. We ask that you train school security in culturally responsive and restorative approaches and ensure that they are developing relationships with the school community. In incidents of reporting sexual assault and other crimes, counselors should serve as a resource to students rather than SROs. We would also like to see counselors take a more active role in advocating for students during decisions of discipline. 4, end zero-tolerance policies in and lower exclusionary disciplinary rates. While PPS has made strides in the lowering the total amount of exclusionary discipline, further progress is necessary. Zero-tolerance policies are a relic of the tough-on-crime era that have no place in a district that claims to prioritize equity. It's time to rid the district of any discipline guidelines that call for a minimum punishment. Every case should be reviewed on an individual basis. Suspension or expulsion should be avoided unless absolutely necessary. 5, create and follow through on a plan for closing the racial disparities in discipline. PPS has stated that closing these racial disparities is a priority, yet we have been unable to find a plan to do this. It is unacceptable that in the last school year, a black high school student was 4.5 more times likely than a white student to be suspended or expelled. We ask that you develop a comprehensive 5-year approach to ending the gap in discipline with measurable metrics. Implement restorative practices in every school and develop student mediation programs. In certain schools, PPS has made attempts to implement restorative programs, but these efforts often fade and do not receive the necessary support to succeed. We are asking that in each school, a staff member or group of staff be assigned to oversee a restorative conflict mediation program. PPS should take inspiration from districts that have developed student-facilitated restorative practices. This is a cost-effective and equitable way to approach discipline and issues within the school environment. 7, remove school resource officers from all of PPS by the beginning of the 2018-19 school year. We understand the SROs have been part of PPS for decades, and removing them is not something that can happen overnight. So we are asking that you engage in a collaborative process with Portland Police, community members, and students to phase in-school cops out of the 2018-19 school year. 8, limit the amount that police are called into schools to extreme cases. Police should only enter schools in rare instances of violence or outside threats to student safety. We ask that a protocol and relationship between school administrations and the nearest police precinct be developed to minimize the harm caused when these officers do have to enter schools. Thank you for listening to us today. Our advocacy will not end here, and if these demands are not met, you can expect further action. We hope that our message came across clearly. Police do not belong in schools. Please reach out to us through email if you would be willing to meet and discuss this issue.
Thank you very much.
And just to clarify,
All right.
we'll be sending additional testimony to you that we were not able to get across, and we hope to meet with you soon. Thank you.
Appreciate that. All right, we have interpreters with us tonight. I'd like to invite them up so they can introduce themselves.
John Aria for Spanish.
I'm Cantonese interpreter.
Abdi for Somali.
I'm Kim Aaron, the interpreter.
Okay. Ms. Huson, you want to call up the first two?
Sure. Anne Kafuri and Petra Prostred.
Say what? Okay. Thank you. I guess you didn't hear, but yeah. So this is a budget hearing, and everybody has 2 minutes. Appreciate you being here all, and it's very important to us to hear you tonight. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ann Kafori, and I'm on the board for Peace in Schools. As an advocate, I'm asking you to keep this vital program in our high schools. I've been a psychotherapist for over 30 years, and before that, a high school teacher. Our 3 children have gone to Portland Public Schools. So I speak as an advocate for the Peace in Schools program from experience, both professionally and personally. Mindfulness practice is evidence-based. It has shown to improve executive functioning, memory, and a sense of well-being. Through the Peace in Schools program, high school students are taught a language where they learn to explore their lives with a mindfulness perspective. This language is non-judgmental and very compassionate for both self and others. In such a safe atmosphere, students feel supported by each other and can better face life's challenges. Furthermore, students who have taken this class report that they study better, retain more knowledge, and feel better about themselves and others. Principals, counselors, teachers, and students overwhelmingly support this program because of its value and effectiveness. Hence, more high schools want the Peace in program in their schools. In addition to being effective, this nonprofit program has helped keep kids in school, improve their learning in other subjects, and helped raise self-esteem. We need the Peace in Schools program in our public high schools more than ever these days. Please retain this vital program that serves hundreds of students who benefit each year from being in this class. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amy Lee and Nia Williamson. You would be called next, after them.
All right, welcome.
Okay. Hello, my name is Nia Williamson. I'm currently a sophomore at Cleveland High School, and as a Native and Asian American woman, I am here to help represent both communities in support of passing the Ethnic Studies Bill into law. I would first like to thank the board for passing the Ethnic Studies Bill and resolution last May and ask that they keep it as a priority. I'm here to support funding for ethnic studies teacher training and materials for next year's courses that will embed ethnic studies into social studies classes. This is important to me because even though I am fully aware of the historic contributions that my communities have had to this country, we are invisible in the textbooks. We talk about discrimination and racism, but we don't even know the history of it all. They don't teach us about the Asians that came to this country and risked their lives every day to build that railroad, only to get tossed aside after it was built and told that the only jobs we could have were laundry services, restaurant workers, and merchants. We don't learn about the mass genocide that happened to the indigenous people that were already living here. Instead, we celebrate Thanksgiving, a day where they were all supposedly friends that sat together at a table and shared recipes. How can we expect ourselves to progress forward when we still have children rejecting people's identities because you can't be Native, they're all gone? My community's needs have been pushed aside for too long. We need to know that someone cares enough to educate students on the precious history of our people. We can't take another act of disregard. We want communities of color to feel pride in their identities, for future generations to know of the contributions that their ancestors have had on this country. That is why I stand here today asking for support from the board to fully fund this implementation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Amy. I am a junior at Franklin High School, and I don't know if you guys remember me, but I am one of the older Ally members who were there when this campaign was created. I have seen us grow, I have seen us struggle, I have seen us succeed. We started out as a bunch of high schoolers, but now we have become something more. We are not just a bunch of high schoolers that meet in a small room on Wednesdays. We are a group of community members working together to create change for the future. Change that will not keep us separate by race, gender, or the money that we make, but will unite us as people. We have one common goal, and that is to be given the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We created this ethnic studies campaign as a step forward to that goal, to give students the opportunity to not only learn about their own culture, but about others, to learn about the struggles that others had to face, but most importantly, to unite us, especially during this time. So I am asking all of you to think back to when we met each and every one of you, to when we sat in this very room occupying this space so that you would notice and remember us, to when we had that kick-ass campaign launch party with all the food and community members together, to when we were chanting and screaming outside, to when we came in one last time as a big group waiting for the final say. There was a moment of silence right before it was passed, and the room erupted with cheer when we finally took a step forward to unity. I want to thank you for the support that you have given us through our campaign, and hope that you will make ethnic studies a top priority because we work so hard on it. Not just Ally and our coalition with other youth groups, but also you all too. You all had the final say, and allowing us the opportunity to move forward with this meant so much. I hope to one day visit my high school when I'm older and see this ethnic studies still be there. And remember the moment that it got passed, and this very moment when you will all create this budget in support and funding of the implementation of ethnic studies. I'll see all those students engaged, excited to learn, and united for our goal. All because of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica Yu and Robert Benton.
Welcome.
Hi.
Hi. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my name's Jessica, also same as Amy. Don't know if you guys remember me, but almost nearly a year ago I was sitting in front of you guys testifying on why I wanted ethnic studies to be passed. And the reasons haven't changed, except the circumstances have. It is more important now than ever to have a curriculum that unifies every side of the country. Just because there's so many attacks on Muslim folks, POC, women, and as a Portland Public School District who stresses that we are an inclusive community, we must have a curriculum that reflects that. So another reason I'm here today, aside from telling you why I want this to be passed or budget allocated, whatever, is to also hold you guys accountable. I met with a lot of you guys individually with Ally, and I want you guys to remember the time that we passed this a year ago when you guys said that you do support this. And the budgeting is where we see where you stand on this. So I really hope you guys will allocate enough funding to make sure that this curriculum is implemented well and not just as a check mark on a list. I really didn't prepare anything today, came straight from AP exams, so forgive me. But I just want to echo everything that my peers said and just remind you that we are still here and we are watching. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tamra Rubin and Aline Terpstra.
Hello.
Welcome.
I'm Aline Terpstra, and I am an exchange student from the Netherlands. I am speaking for Mindful Studies. I am attending Mindful Studies at Madison High School. One of the reasons that I chose Mindful Studies is that we don't have that course in the Netherlands. What I noticed is that it's really helpful to deal with stress. Sometimes I had a lot of stress in the Netherlands, and sometimes I still have stress here, but I learned how to deal with the stress and take a moment for yourself and to empty your brain. It's also really helpful for sports. For example, I'm doing golf, and like if you are having a bad shot, then it's like first then I thought, oh no, and then I could get really angry, but now I learned how to deal with it and count to 10 and then go further. Something what I noticed is like in the life before I came here, so what I already said is I had much more stress, and now I learned how to deal with it and give it a place. Something what I also learned here is that what I explored here is the environment of care. Something what I found out is another point that I would like to make is that a class isn't all about stress and dealing with stress. I also learned about myself and who I am. For example, I can recognize and disidentify negative self-talk, access to unconditional love, recognize coping mechanisms and why we have coping mechanisms. So I also can make better and healthier decisions after dealing with a coping mechanism. So I would like you to ask, please don't cut the fundings for Peace in Schools. It's really helpful for now, but also for your future.
Thank you.
Christine Bemrose and Jeffrey Kronick.
Thanks for taking the time to hear from the community for these listening sessions. My name is Christine Bemrose, and I am a speech language pathologist here in the school district, and I have 20 years of experience working with children, adolescents, and families. I'm here to testify on behalf of the translation and interpretation staff who have been unassigned from their positions. Our TIS staff are on the front lines of community engagement, directly interacting with families and PPS colleagues on a daily basis. There seems to be an impression among district decision makers that the work of the TIS staff can be eliminated, replaced by translation software, or outsourced to agencies only, a view that represents a shallow understanding of the complexities and competencies required to be the interpreters of our educational system. Our TIS colleagues have developed a deep knowledge of the school systems, which allows them to better explain terms such as DIBELS, or SBAC, or Easy CBM, BICS versus CALP. They can explain standard versus modified, or why developmental milestones are essential components of special education evaluations. They inform parents of due process rights, give context to the concepts of special education eligibilities, and the services and supports available for educational needs. This educational jargon can be baffling to understand and navigate for speakers of standard American English who have experience in our educational system. It's a communication minefield for our community members without English as a first language. As a speech language pathologist working with children and families, my TIS colleagues have been invaluable in educating and supporting me in my practice. As a monolingual English speaker, I rely on the linguistic expertise and cultural perspectives of the TIS interpreters to ensure that I conduct my work in a culturally responsive manner. Unfortunately, PPS has a history of civil rights complaints and citations from federal and state authorities with regards to our multicultural families. I believe that the TIS interpreters are an essential resource in correcting these practices. The relationships they have developed and the knowledge of the local community is a critical component of the trust families develop with our schools. In discussing the unassignment of TIS interpreters, I have only heard families and staff express high praise for their work and professionalism. It is rare that any employee of PPS remains unscathed in these times, and yet our TIS staff, who work in every building in this district, are universally highly regarded. This is a time when multilingual and multicultural families are increasingly vulnerable, and that is why this is a time to support and enhance the work of Portland Public School staff who are effective and professional experts that directly impact the opportunities to access and improve equity in our educational system. Please preserve and support the TIS interpreters' roles in improving the PPS outcomes for our students and our families.
Thank you. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Jeffrey Kroenig. I'm a long-term Portland resident, and for a number of years I've supported Peace in Schools and its mindful studies classes in the Portland schools, both financially and through volunteer service. I've come to appreciate the needs that it addresses among students in the Portland schools. I'm hopeful that in making the hard choices and programs that you will be funding this year, you'll consider the benefits of mindful studies courses. Adolescence is not easy, as we all understand, and likely the period of transition to adult life is more challenging than ever. Perspective, self-awareness, discernment, valuable tools. They promote focus, understanding, and thoughtful choices. In their absence, the opposite is true. I'm going to purloin someone else's quote and finish by saying that our first duty to students is to make them happy. If we have not made them so, we will have wronged them. No other good that they may get can make up for that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Julia Peedy and Ulaf Hassan.
Welcome. Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Julia Peedy, and I'm an ESL teacher in PPS. I'm here today to ask you to intervene in the decision to unassign all 6 representatives of the Translation Interpretation Services, or TIS. The communications consultant who unassigned these people, a contractor herself, made the decision without knowing what these people do or what a huge loss their absence would represent for the families, students, and staff of PPS. She also may not have known our history. In 2008, PPS was investigated by the Office for Civil Rights for failing to provide information in an effective manner to the parents of LEP students. Getting rid of these employees will increase the likelihood of another such complaint. From what I understand, you've been told that getting rid of the TIS representatives will save the district money and that contract interpreters will do a better job. This is decidedly not the case. In addition to the translation of all kinds of district and school documents, these valuable employees translate for IEP meetings, discipline hearings, and other legal meetings of a sensitive nature. They also respond to calls on the language line, which allows ESL parents and students the opportunity to contact someone who speaks their language in PPS whenever they have a question or concern. In addition, they advocate for and support our ESL students and their families. Teachers and parents alike know and trust these people, given their knowledge, skills, and most importantly, their carefully cultivated relationships with families. How can this district imagine that they would be replaceable? As for the notion that contract interpreters will do a better job, just 2 weeks ago, a colleague in my building told me she had come out of the worst IEP meeting she had ever attended. The meeting was a disaster because of the contracted interpreter sent by TIS. To begin with, the interpreter was 15 minutes late. As the meeting finally got underway, it became clear that the interpreter was unable to accurately convey what was being said because he didn't know the necessary terminology, nor was he familiar with PPS procedures or protocol. The parent, who knew enough English to know that crucial information was being left out, was understandably frustrated and upset. The same week, I heard about an IEP meeting at another school that fell apart due to a different incompetent contracted interpreter. Is this a scenario that you want to continue repeating for our ESL families? Where is the commitment to equity? It is up to you, the board, to step in and correct this terrible mistake and return the TIS representatives to their rightful position. You've just received a letter today that is signed by over 50 PPS teachers, school psychologists, speech pathologists, and special ed teachers. I hope you take the time to read it.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ty Luam and Noel Jackson.
I'm
Noel.
actually.
Bonjour, my name is Noelle Jackson. I'm a proud parent of a current junior at Grant High School. We've lived in the Grant neighborhood for 16 years, and I would like you to look around the room and see, our support from our Grant students. Let me first say thank you for the work that you do. We understand and appreciate that budget cuts are difficult. I realize that you may not have direct influence or control over individual programs at our schools, but I would like to bring the issue of program inequity to your attention. Lincoln High School offers 6 world languages. Franklin, 5. Wilson, 5. Cleveland, 4. Grant will be reduced to 2 next year. We have an enrollment of 1,500 kids. World language is non-elective. It is a core requirement for graduation. Why would a core graduation requirement be put on the cutting block? Does that seem right to you? In our world today, why is Grant reducing the opportunity to expand our world knowledge by eliminating a world language option? Please don't let this happen. Please know that we aren't looking for Spanish, Japanese immersion, or French. We want Spanish, Japanese immersion, and French. Don't let Grant diminish the importance of providing language options by forcing students to choose between Spanish or Japanese. Isn't the phrase, think global, act local, more important than ever in our current world climate? By cutting French, really, all you're doing is reallocating French FTE to the remaining languages. How is that cutting the budget? It's difficult not to feel that there is a priority against language options at our school. Don't we want our students to learn about other cultures and perspectives around the world to become truly global citizens? Students have various reasons as to their language choices and overall do better in classes that they have chosen themselves. Why force them to take a language they have no interest in? It is our understanding that the Japanese immersion program currently housed at Grant is taking money from our consolidated budget. I think it's widely understood that the immersion programs are district-wide and provide programming for students all over PPS. Really, it can be housed in any school. For that reason, we feel that the immersion program should be paid for by the general fund. Using our local neighborhood school dollars for students outside grant boundaries feels counterproductive to the needs of our local students. About 1/3 of our English vocabulary has been borrowed from French. As a result, studies have shown that students who have studied French earn higher scores on standardized tests. Please urge Principal Campbell to keep our French program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here. My name is Thi Lương. I am Family Engagement Specialist with the Family and Community Engagement Services Program at the Immigrant and Refugee Community Organization. I work with the 39 Vietnamese families at Harrison Park, Jason Lee, Vestal, and Roseway Heights K-8 schools. The work I do strengthens the relationship between schools and families. I provide culturally and linguistically appropriate educational opportunities through regular group activities. In parent group meetings, we discuss parent as a teacher, life at school, how to check the student homework, and school attendance. I provide in-home tutors for families experience extreme barriers, newcomer families, pre-literate families, and single parents households. More than 80% of my 39 Vietnamese families report better understanding of school to home and home to school communications. Over 80% of them report increased learning at home. Without the FACES program, this family would have nobody to help them. Please support the FACES program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question, Tom? Could you ask the woman from Grant to step back down if she would? Could you? Yeah. I misunderstood something that you said, I think, and I wanted to get it straight.
Yes.
There's 3 languages.
Correct.
And Japanese, one is the Japanese immersion program. Is there then a separate Japanese language?
I think kids can take
Separately then outside of the
Japanese,
immersion program.
Right.
So there's
I don't
3.
know what the enrollment
And you
is.
would go down to 2. And did you get anything in the mail or where they said why they were doing this?
No, that's part of the problem. We have,
Okay.
Okay.
yeah,
Thank
no.
you very much. Appreciate
So
it.
our contact information is on the letters. You're
Okay.
welcome. I'm
Thank
happy
you
to.
very much.
I don't want to take up all the time.
Next, we have Shiloh George and Jackie Murphy.
Welcome.
Glaham, Naganim Shiloh George. My name is Shiloh George. I'm Southern Cheyenne, Arapaho, as well as Irish and Scottish. I'm the parent involvement advocate at the Native American Youth and Family Center. So I introduced myself in Chinook Wawa, which is the trade language used on these lands, these multnomah lands, for generations. I would like to acknowledge that we're all guests here on Multnomah, Tualatin, Kalapulia, and Malala lands. Hayumasi, I want to give you many thanks for continuing to recognize and fund our culturally specific family engagement programming services. I enjoy serving the parents in our community and helping them navigate Portland Public Schools, as well as working on strengthening themselves and their families. Every Tuesday night, which is tonight, one of those nights, we have a parent gathering where parents meet to support each other and explore a variety of topics. Last week, a parent told me and the group that since she started attending our gatherings, her attitude toward her family and her work has greatly improved. In January, one of the parents that I work with asked me to step in and assist her in her daughter's classroom with the teacher and the curriculum. And I did that. I provided some Native American specific curriculum to that teacher. And the parent told me that her daughter really appreciated having her culture represented in the schools. So we really want to thank you for continuing to support those services. And I also want to encourage you to continue funding services through the Early College Academy at NAIA, which is currently slated to be some of the budget to be taken away. From 2008 to 2010, I was a culture arts teacher at the Academy, and I can tell you from firsthand experience how important it is to have culturally specific high school for our youth. The intensive supports and individualized attention is imperative to our students to be engaged and successful in their learning. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Katie Odell and Marisha Childs.
Welcome.
I'm Marisha, not Katie. I guess this is Katie. I'm here. My name's Marisha Childs. I'm a parent at Winter Haven, and I'm here about reducing the funding for equity and inclusion. And I think now is, I came to a meeting last week and I heard some parents and others address the board about the equity funding. And I was surprised to hear what some schools have, even as today. I'm always surprised to hear what some schools have and what others don't. Now is clearly not the time to be reducing funding for equity and inclusion. Now is the time to increase the funding for equity and inclusion. But I can also understand of those who spoke a couple weeks ago about the ineffectiveness and why it should be cut. I get that response. I think it's really important now to increase the funding to improve and enhance what is there. We have a TOSA at our school, which I never see. I have seen the TOSA for the Cleveland cluster, and she was incredibly helpful. But when I have to come to my school every year with an issue that has occurred at the school, from my child feeling othered, from me feeling othered at the school, this should not be treated as a one-off. This should be a broader approach to how to address the problems. There are systemic issues that exist within PPS, and reducing the funding for equity and inclusion is not going to be the way to resolve it. When a parent calls and asks about attending the hearing today and is told by staff with the district, make sure you send an articulate parent of color. Clearly you've got a problem. These are not one-off issues. These are systemic issues. When the school district is hit with $1 million lawsuit, these are clearly not one-off issues. These are broader issues that need to be addressed on a broader scale. I guess that's it. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Katie Odell, Youth Services Director for Multnomah County Library. I've had the opportunity to work with Portland Public Schools for the past 2 decades. In fact, I began my work here as the library boosted its services in response to PPS cutting funding to their media specialists and teacher librarians in 1997. And unfortunately, here we are again. Anyone who's experienced a vibrant school library knows it is the true heart of a student community, a place where knowledgeable media specialists and dedicated aides connect young people to information, resources, and literature that is essential to their development. It's a place where kids and teens can collaborate on research and projects or find solace and comfort in a quiet, safe space. Now more than ever, school media specialists are essential in the electronic age. As our own feeds are full of fake news and internet hoaxes, it is the role of teacher librarians to ensure students learn the skills of digital literacy so they can soundly judge the validity of information they are seeking. In these times, being able to find, use, and evaluate information is crucial. If it's challenging for us as adults, imagine what it's like navigating as a young person. But you do not need to be swayed by my personal passion for libraries. Look to the research, look to the data. The fate of student success is directly tied to that of school library staffing. Reduced staffing also means further harm to students beyond test scores because of reduced collaboration time with partners like Multnomah County Library. If those of us at organizations who are in classrooms every single day of the year, who support students, don't have our live wire, our teacher librarian who has adequate time to assess needs and actually schedule the details around literacy and research, presentation, services, we simply can't get to the students. Finding one's place in the world is always a challenge, but tonight you can listen and make a difference in thousands of lives by investing in proven outcomes, school libraries. And as your partner, Multnomah County Library will be there every step of the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Alice Nyack and Kai Tai.
Welcome.
Hello. Should I wait?
Yep, no. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi. Thanks for having us all here tonight so we can talk. I feel the need to let you know how I'm feeling because I'm really worried about the kids of color in PPS. We need more equity training for our staffs and students that is more action-oriented. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm Alice Nyack. I have 2 kids in PPS, one in Winter Haven and one in Cleveland High School. We've been in PPS forever and have been fairly, doing okay. My daughter's been at Winter Haven for 8 years, and the last several years have been very difficult for her as a student of color. In a majority white school, her experience has been very isolating. When she objected to racial slurs that were directed at her by boys in her class, nothing changed. She is a very brave person and went through all the proper channels. She first talked to the boys directly, no change. Went to the teachers and heard, I can't do anything about it if it didn't happen in my classroom. So nothing changed. She went to her principal, nothing changed. That is very, very disturbing for a 12-year-old girl to have to deal with. She is very resilient, though, and she planned some equity training on her own for her classmates. She did talks on microaggressions and other racial issues. She went to the lower grades at the request of other parents to discuss what it felt like growing up as a person of color in a primarily white school. She planned an assembly with her brother and the Cleveland Alliance for Racial Equity. Along the way, she didn't receive much help from her school staff. A child really shouldn't be responsible for this kind of training for the whole rest of her school on racial equity. She filled a void that was obviously there, and teachers have not been able to adequately help her because they don't have the expertise to deal with this difficult situation. Julie Palmer, who is the equity TOSA at PPS High Schools, has been a very welcome change, and she has helped greatly. I'd just like to say that Courageous Conversations has been great for teachers to talk, but it isn't very action-oriented, and I'm very concerned about the lack of action in PPS, and I'm concerned about the safety of students as we talk to, as adults talk about conversations, our students of color are not protected. Please increase equity funding and training for our PPS schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, my name is Kai Clayton, and I am a senior at Wilson High School, and I'm here to talk about how I feel the importance of mindful studies, the importance to me as a student who's been in it since the first class they ever had. Growing up, my parents divorced when I was 6, and I was always their emotional supporter. And so I always felt guilty needing help of my own. Being that I didn't have a place to be heard in my own house, going to mindful studies in my sophomore year was monumentally important for me. I had a place where I could be heard, where I knew people cared, and a place I could feel safe, especially with the chaos of 2 parents dealing with emotional trauma of their own, where I had to support them, a young child at the time. And I think being through what I had been through, I could be angry, confused, and lost. I could be not even here to talk to you about everything. I may not have had the tools to deal with everything I've been through, abuses from my peers, abuses from romantic partners, and mindful studies came along sophomore year, and I feel like it didn't save me, but it gave me the tools with which I could save myself. And after being in it for 3 years, I've taken it over and over again because I feel like it's something that you need to do over and over again so that it's just a part of your life constantly. I've absorbed it into my being, into my soul, and I feel like I'm a better person for it. And I look around every class at all the people who I think maybe it saved them as well. And you know, I am graduating, but I would like to continue being a part of this program as much as possible because I feel like it's important that everyone has this opportunity and it's available to everyone who needs it, because I definitely needed it. And I think that many people with the rising stress levels of teens, my friends, people I don't know, to be able to deal with that stress. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have Tao Hyun and Otto Snell.
Hi.
Good evening. Xin kính chào quý vị thành viên của Hội đồng Giáo dục Sở Học Chánh Portland. My name is Thu Thảo Huỳnh. Gần đây qua TV và báo chí, tôi được biết sắp tới đây Sở Học Chánh sẽ cắt giảm nhân viên của văn phòng TIS. Cho nên hôm nay chúng tôi đến đây để bày tỏ cái sự lo lắng của mình.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Thao Hinh. Recently, I have heard on TV and newspaper that PPS school system will cut TIS service. Therefore, I'm be here today to express our feeling and concern.
Mỗi lần tôi tham dự các buổi họp ở lớp, ở trường hay của Sở Học Chánh, tôi được thường gặp cái cô nhân viên thông dịch rất tốt về khả năng chuyên môn lẫn giao tiếp, đó là cô Quý Nguyễn. Trong suốt năm học, nếu mà tôi có câu hỏi gì thắc mắc về học tập của con tôi, hoặc là tôi gặp những cái thư từ hay giấy tờ gì mà bằng tiếng Anh tôi không hiểu gì, những lúc khẩn cấp như vậy tôi gọi lên cái đường dây tiếng Việt và gặp cô giúp đỡ tôi rất là tận tình.
Every time I attend a meeting in public school, I often see an interpreter who is very good in social life and community need. That person named Queen Nguyên. Throughout the school year, every time I have questions or concern about the document or letter that I receive from school that make me cannot understand because of my limited English, I often call a special phone line that reserved for people who limited English speaker like me to speak with her, which is her name is Queen Nguyên.
Chúng tôi biết rằng Sở Học Chánh luôn phục vụ và hỗ trợ những cái gia đình mà gặp khó khăn về tiếng Anh giống như chúng tôi rất là cảm ơn. Nhưng cho nên tôi muốn Sở Học Chánh có những cái người thông dịch mà có kinh nghiệm chuyên về cái lĩnh vực giáo dục, thông hiểu những cái chương trình học cũng như là cái hệ thống giáo dục trên toàn nước Mỹ. Và cô Quý là người đã hỗ trợ và giúp đỡ cho chúng tôi rất nhiều, và cô cũng giúp đỡ cho cộng đồng Việt Nam của chúng tôi nữa.
We know that PPS always support our parents who have limited English and care about our Vietnamese community. So I believe that PPS needs to keep our professional interpreter service, who is specialized in school system, who understand more about our culture and our needs.
Nếu Sở Học Chánh có những điều kiện như vậy, tức là Sở Học Chánh đã giúp đỡ cho những cái gia đình gặp trở ngại về tiếng Anh của chúng tôi rất nhiều. Đó là và đem lại cái sự công bằng cho chúng tôi để chúng tôi được mạnh dạn nói lên cái tiếng nói của mình, cũng như là bày tỏ những cái nguyện vọng của mình để mà chúng tôi có được hỗ trợ và giúp đỡ ý kiến để nhằm giáo dục con cái chúng tôi sẽ tốt hơn trên mọi mặt nói chung và cũng như lĩnh vực về văn hóa nói riêng.
To me, if PPS can provide that services, it very meaningful for us because it helps us and help our community to better help our children in school and also more successful in life in general.
Xin kính chào và cảm ơn sự chú ý lắng nghe của quý vị.
Thank you very much for your listening and concern. I'm very appreciated.
Thank you.
Good evening.
So I'm Otto Schell. I'm with the Oregon PTA. I spend a lot of time in Salem. I've also spent a lot of time, like many of you, coming to these kinds of meetings. These meetings remind me of the amazing work that we do for kids in schools all over the state. And what's so challenging is we're talking about cuts in a good economy. So I'm bringing a little bit of hope and a challenge for you and for our folks in the audience. It's important what they're doing tonight to come and tell their stories, but it's much more important that you focus on Salem. So we have, Oregon PTA is part of a group of education coalition partners supporting the work that's called OregonRising.org. And last time I was here, I was reminded that it's Oregon-Rising.org. And you can take out your phone right now in the audience and dial that up, and you can see at the top of the page, there's a take action button rather. And what this is a project that was created in a conversation with over 11,000 people across the state. And what they found when they talked to parents and community members and school board members and superintendents and all the folks who are involved in that work is we want a well-rounded education, we want real class size that meets the needs of kids. We want all the things that you're hearing about in these budget meetings. So how are we going to change that? Well, right now there's a conversation in Salem, and it involves creating energy around creating revenue. We've had 20-some years of avoiding funding schools, and K-12 has really been the one that bore the brunt. There are two things going on, and if you go to Oregon-Rising.org, and if I don't say it 3 or 4 times tonight, I'll be remiss. You can take action right now to send a message to your legislator, and there even are suggested texts for how you can do that. If we all do this, it will change the conversation in Salem. It will result in revenue, and revenue means fewer or no cuts.
All right, say it one more time.
Yeah, thank you. So it's Oregon-Rising.org, and it was created by the School Boards Administration, OSBA, the Oregon School Board Association, the Confederation of School Board Administrators, and the Oregon Education Association.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Otto.
Thank you, Otto, for all your work.
Next, we have Jennifer Samuels and Susan Carson.
Hi, everyone. My name is Susan Carson, and my son is a second grader at Roseway Heights. In fact, I have to get over there by 6:30 for his music concert tonight. He receives special education services that allow him to be included with his peers in the general education classroom. So first I want to thank the board for your hard work you've been doing to craft a budget under what we know are very difficult circumstances. I'm here tonight to urge you to keep adequate funding for special education services in the forefront as you continue this process. Specifically, I'd like to address the decision to eliminate the Special Education Family and Community Liaison position as a cost-saving measure. I'm so disappointed in this decision. I believe it's short-sighted, counterproductive, and sends a demoralizing message to already struggling families. The Special Education Family and Community Liaison provides family training, refers families to community resources, works together with PPS staff and families to repair damaged relationships, and even attends IEP meetings in person. The liaison works to empower students with disabilities and their families and gives them a voice when they're unable to advocate for themselves. Our current family and community liaison is Noelle Sisk, who I first met over 4 years ago when she was director of the Parent Training Institute at FACT. Since then, she's given me and my husband and many of my fellow parents valuable advice as we've navigated the sometimes bumpy road through Portland Public Schools. There's no one I trust more to provide accurate information about my child's rights, and I would not be the advocate for my child today that I am today without Noelle Sisk. When someone I know experiences a challenge related to special education, the first person I think of and the person that I refer them to is Noelle. During lean budget times, there are always difficult decisions to make about what programs and positions to cut. I understand that. But you also make decisions about what things are too valuable to cut. I believe the Special Education Family and Community Liaison is one such position. Please do what you can to restore funding for this position. Show us that you really are committed to inclusion and to restoring our trust in the PPS board and administration. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'm Jennifer Samuels. I'm here to speak tonight on behalf of the PPS K3 Read Together initiative. Since the fall of 2014, the Read Together initiative has brought together the district, 5 priority and focus schools serving primarily low-income students and students of color, and 6 nonprofit and community partners, including the Black Parent Initiative, Children's Book Bank, Multnomah County Library, Reading Results, the Shadow Project, and SMART. My colleagues are here also. All of these groups work together to make improvements toward third grade reading outcomes for PPS third graders, ultimately making improvements toward high school graduation rates. We provide a coordinated suite of cost-effective wraparound services designed to support each school in building a culture of literacy. The services are aligned with PPS's equity-based balanced literacy initiative, support PPS's literacy and equity goals, and aim to empower students to read in school, after school, and at home. Last year, PPS's data and evaluation team concluded that the students served at our Read Together schools made gains in reading at statistically significant higher rates than compared to like students at similar schools. The Read Together initiative is among the painful cuts slated for next year. For 2017-18, the initiative would cost PPS about $250,000, and the nonprofit and community partners leverage another $330,000 in direct services, volunteer hours, and learning materials directly into the schools we serve. Principal Newsom at our partner school, Rosa Parks, shared that losing the Read Together initiative will be devastating to her students and school community. I'd like to share who will benefit from reinstating the Read Together initiative next year. Students at all 5 schools would participate in 6,000 30-minute reading intervention sessions, 3,500 30-minute sessions reading with adults, 231 hours of one-on-one and small group support and goal setting, 28,000 audiobook pages. They would receive 21,000 books to bring home and keep, including over 400 culturally specific titles. Parents would have 11 Black and biracial cultural literacy nights, workshops, and fairs. Teachers have PD, and schools have 8 to 10 family and community events. So I passed around a handout that I'd like to submit. We have several other letters of support coming, and I urge you to consider maintaining the Read Together initiative. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next, we have Kevin Jeans Gale and Scott Kleiner.
Welcome.
I'm busy.
Hi. I'm sort of Kevin today. Can't you tell? So I'm Gabby Riley. I work at ZGF Architects as a designer, and I'm also an officer on the board of directors for the Portland Workforce Alliance. ZGF is more than 100 companies volunteering for Portland Public Schools through our nonprofit. We host a number of career days every year, and many of our employees visit campuses and talk with students about careers in architecture and design. And also, it looks like we have one here today. One of our newer employees, he came to ZGF Career Day about a decade ago when he was in high school, and now he works at at ZGF and he volunteers. And this year we had students from 8 different PPS high schools at our Career Day at ZGF downtown. We had Alliance, Benson, Cleveland, Franklin, Grant, Jefferson, Lincoln, and Wilson. 100% rated the experience as excellent or good. A number of these students decided to join the ACE Mentorship Program, which is staffed by PWA and has good college scholarships. We understand you guys are a big district, and it's hard to navigate. And our role is to work as a bridge between, our role at PWA is to work as a bridge between your high schools and employers like ZGF.
We think cutting our funding by more than a half, as the central office has proposed, will weaken that bridge and end up costing you in money, volunteers, and ultimately the students. Thank you so much for supporting high school students through our nonprofit. We ask that you look for ways to maintain funding, and we hope to maintain and strengthen our 12-year partnership with Portland Public Schools. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gabby.
I'm Scott Kleiner. I work at Wyden Kennedy, and I'm the past board president for the Portland Workforce Alliance. Sitting here listening to all the constituents that are affected by this year's budget is really astonishing. I respect the challenge ahead of you as we're trying to figure out what to do with this multi-million-dollar budget. I'm not actually sure I can tell you what's in my wallet right now, so a lot of respect for what's in front of you. I'm here to ask the school board to reconsider the central office's proposal to cut our funding by more than half as well. We feel this would have a serious negative impact on our partnership with the district and on our ability to serve the reason that we're all here, the students. I have a a second grader and a fifth grader right now, so I have personal interest as well. Last year, you voted to invest $113,000 in PWA as a part of the strategy to expand CTE classes and help more students see real-life relevance in their education. Thank you for that. Here are some stats to illustrate how that investment has paid off. We've helped provide more than 5,500 career-related learning experiences for high school students across the entire district. 2/3 of those experiences have been for students at high-poverty campuses with significant numbers of historically underserved students. We have leveraged hundreds of thousands of dollars in financial and in-kind support for PPS through our 4-person staff, our board of directors, and more than 1,100 volunteers. I personally see the value in this work when my coworkers at Wyden Kennedy volunteer at high schools and talk in classes, or when they host a career day at our office. It would be much harder for us to support your schools and students without PWA as an intermediary. We ask that you continue your investment in PWA as part of a cost-effective, holistic way to improve career and college readiness and graduation rates for all students. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Lastly, we have Angela Jarvis Holland.
Good evening. I know what difficult work there is for you to do, and I thank you for the time and attention that you give. I'm here to talk about special education, which is an extremely complicated conversation sometimes. And my plea this evening is to try and seek an assurance that you're going to take a little more time and dig a little more deeply, because I really don't think there's an understanding of the funding complexities, the choices that have already been made that have impacted the decisions that are being forced on the special education department, and the alternatives that there might be. And for you to do your due diligence, you need more information. Amongst the cuts that are being proposed are community and family coordinator, 7 floater paraeducators, 8 therapeutic intervention coaches, and the opening of 2 new segregated classrooms that will take 20 kindergarten students, in a complete reversal of the direction that your work was moving. These proposed actions undermine your mission, and they reverse important work, as well as violate the right to FAPE and the least restrictive environment for students with disabilities and/or of color. We urge the board and leadership of PPS to uphold the law and rights of our children by funding resources and supports necessary to meet the real needs of children on IEPs. They already face the same issues of the cuts in general ed. They already face the issues of PE not being available or libraries being cut. So we're not asking for a special pleading. We're talking about people with multiple issues impacting their lives. Within these cuts, I really feel that we are saying you do not have the right to be disabled and educated in PPS. And I think that that really needs to be considered strongly. Obviously, in 2 minutes, I can't address the list of things here. But creating segregated classrooms is not the answer, and they're aimed at kindergarten. I don't want PPS to take away the right to belong for a student just entering the school district. Funding cannot be a reason to take away people's rights. And my son Daniel has addressed this board before, and he's left a couple of business cards that I'm going to pass along to you. He's seeking your support for supported education for all children. And my advocacy today joins with the advocacy of the many other voices here, because disabilities is the one area that touches every life, every kind of income, every race, all situations in life. So I speak on behalf, I hope, of all of those voices, and I know that I bring my white privilege, but I want a school district that's listening and attending to the basic rights and human dignity of all of our children.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so did anybody sign up for this budget hearing that has not spoken, maybe arrived late? Come on down.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Faiza. Thank you. Hi, my name is Faiza. Thank you, Help America, to much people in school. My name is Uluf Hulub. What's your name? My name is Andri. اللي help أطفال baby 5 في السكول. Thank you. No English, Arabic English, no too much. And a school, my school, best school, and Emily is help Emily too much people. Thank you, America. This help أطفال English. And I know English. This one, my name is Uluf.
Hello, thanks for having us. My name is Olof Hassan. I'm family engagement specialist with the Family and the Community Engagement Service Program at the
Would you put the mic closer to you so we can hear you? Thank you.
Okay. My name is Olof Hassan. I'm a family engagement specialist with the Family and Community Engagement Service Program at the Immigrant and Refugee Community Organization. We would like to thank you for continuing the fund, and so that's all we'd like to say. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, anybody else that came to testify on the budget? Appreciate everybody's input. Our board's going to have a work session to deal with all these challenging issues here, May 17th, and we hope to get to a point where we pass our budget on May 23rd. So please stay in touch. Appreciate everybody being here. And with that, the budget committee now is adjourned. You want to take a break? Okay, let's take 4 minutes and then come back and we'll start the meeting.